So my name's Julian Sterling. I volunteer at the Claverton pumping station group. We are the original pump that kept the canal topped up. The reason we have a pumping station here is when the canals were built, the canals don't have natural water coming into them. So when they were built, you have to divert water in. But as boats go through the locks, they take water with them. And so generally you build a canal with locks going up to an apex, and at the top of at the summit, you pump water in, and then a lock full of water goes with each boat out. And so really you shouldn't actually need a pumping station here. We're not at the summit of the canal, but this section was always leaking. And so there's geological faults, there's fuller's earth underneath, and the canals used to be sealed with clay. And so there was a lengthsman that used to walk up and down every day, bow hauling a boat full of clay, and he'd look for what looks like water going down a plug hole, and he'd get clay, and he'd have to stab it into the hole and seal up the canal. But because this area was leaking so often, it was always low, and the boats couldn't get through it. And so the canal opened in about 1809. I'm not sure on the exact date, but we opened in 1813, just a few years afterwards. And so our job was to keep this pound full of water, and that kept all of the locks in Bath also in water. This is actually quite a unique machine for 1813. So in 1813, they were the start of the steam era. And so most of the canal pumps would be steam driven, whereas we were lucky that we're actually totally green energy, even in the Industrial Revolution. So just behind me, just through this wall, there is a huge water wheel. And so the river runs into the water wheel and turns it, and that power turns the wheel 5 times a minute, and that turns this big gear here, which turns a smaller gear, which runs 2 big beams, like on the big stationary steam engines. And then on the other side, we're pretty much like a steam engine. We've got the same pumps they would have had. In fact, our pumps are actually, they were replaced in about 1848, and they are Cornish mine pumps, basically, made by Harveys of Hale. So we were very lucky at Claverton Pumping Station that our first engineman was literate, even back in 1813. So he was a woodworker, but he was literate, and he started a tradition of marking the flood lines on the wall. So we were built in 1813. Our first flood mark, which is up to about my chest level, is from 1815. And so all throughout the building, we have marks from different years. The highest one was back in 1882, where the floods came all the way up there. It's enough that the island that's over there was completely gone, and the water actually got up onto the railway line about 100 yards that way. But we have different marks throughout the building. Our highest one in modern times is 2013, and we're now grade 1 listed, so we'll stop chiseling them into the walls, but we will make brass plaques when we get a really high one. But this December, in actually the week between Christmas and New Year, I got 3 floods up to just above the railings. And so we was coming down in between Christmas and New Year, cleaning out the floods. And we just get so much silt in the building. You think it's a grade 1 listed building. We have to get the silt out. But any piece of furniture that's normally down here in the summer has to be pulled out of the building, because the water's much higher on this side of the building than this one. So when we get a flood, we actually become part of the river, and any furniture that's here will just get thrown across the building and start damaging the machinery. So a lot of our job through the winter is emptying the place out and just being ready to come here and mop out silt. And so we've got a pressure washer. The original engine man did not have a pressure washer, but he had 12 children, and I assume also 12 mops and 12 buckets.